Welcome to another exciting episode of the Using AI at Work podcast. I'm your host, Chris Daigle, and today I'm thrilled to have Can Turan join us. He's the mastermind behind TryPebbles.ai, which can supercharge your go-to-market efforts by using artificial intelligence combined with market-tested GTM models and proven business methodologies. John's got an incredible story. He's built this tool from the front lines in Ukraine, and now he's here to drop some serious knowledge on how AI can transform your business. As always, this episode is packed with insights on how early adopters like John are using AI at work and how you can too. Now, let's get started. Welcome to Using AI at Work. I'm your host, Chris Daigle. Each week, we'll be learning how today's business owners, entrepreneurs, and ambitious professionals are getting more done with smart use of tomorrow's tech. Let's get started. All right, I'm very excited about having Can Turan on the podcast episode today. John is the founder of TryPebbles.ai, among a bunch of other highly esteemed accomplishments in his career. The first conversation that we had was from a war zone. So I'm excited to hear how life is in being an AI expert in Ukraine, as well as all the other places where you're practicing your skills. And I'm particularly interested, John, in talking about the new software that you're going to be releasing very soon, TryPebbles.ai. So with that, is there anything in particular that you think that the audience needs to know about you before we get started?
I have a background in marketing and strategy, and I worked in the big tech companies such as Google, Cisco, and Walmart Holding, as well as worked in the leading accelerators in the world as pro bono for likes of Founders Institute, PwC Scale, Virgin Startup, and other global accelerators. I have spent most of my time in my working career in London, and currently I am back and forth between Lviv, west of Ukraine, aka the IT outsourcing capital of Europe, and London. So we are treading into the footsteps of Grammarly, which is between Kiev and San Francisco, which is a global tech powerhouse valued at 13 billion. Like them, we are a SaaS platform productivity tool, but unlike them, our focus is only for B2B companies, or helping them going to market by democratizing very well-kept secrets of marketing strategy, market intelligence, and execution principles, so that every company has an equal, fair shot of going to market.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. On the original call where you and I kind of got to know each other before we did the interview, you ran me through your software, and I haven't seen anything else like it. So I'm excited for the release. Let me ask you real quick before we get into the using AI at work part of it. Software is a heavy lift, especially in the AI space where things are changing so frequently. What was the motivation for you to plant your flag on the software side of AI?
Oh, good question. There's two reasons for this. I guess the first is a more professional reason. I fundamentally know that there's a huge gap in the market between basically what the multinationals like Coca-Cola and Unilever can afford in terms of buying strategy intelligence from the likes of McKinsey, BCG, and Bain, and what us mortals SMEs have, basically, which is anywhere between working with a head of marketing, which might be a mishire, where you're paying anywhere between 100 and 300K for per annual, or you are basically at the mercy of certain consultants and market agencies that unfortunately historically don't always perform the way that we would want to. So, it should not come to a surprise to all of us that, we all know that 9 out of 10 companies fail, but we often don't know that the majority of those failures are actually attributed to, go-to-market reasons. And to be frank, that kind of pissed me off for a very long time. It's a very unfair distribution of knowledge and high skill set. If you want to hire a Harvard MBA grad with 3-4 years of industry experience, you can't afford that as an SME. So you have to figure it out by yourself. And why? I mean, there's so many founders out there. There's so many bigger companies out there that they have amazing products. They have amazing services, and they don't see the light of day just for that fact. So from professional point of view, that really, I saw that gap, and running my strategy consultancy, as I kind of coined as the SME of the McKinsey for SMEs. I understood I can't scale myself. So the question was, how do I get my proprietary strategy models, my science-led methodologies, as well as our very clever persuasion sciences into a SaaS platform enhanced by AI for every company to use? Basically, having your own personal senior analyst at McKinsey, your head of marketing at Google, as well as your high emotion intelligence sales manager from Microsoft, into a system that anyone can use, essentially. So where we can make them, at least give them a chance to let them meet the unmet potential in their profitability, essentially. So that was my professional way. And the personal one, well, it's not like I've been in a position of an angel, as a consultant, as a mentor, someone in corporate, and now also as an entrepreneur. And the thing that really grinds my gears is, there are so many founders of small and larger companies that don't always make it.
One of the things that I liked particularly about the demonstration of your software that you showed me when we spoke was exactly what you've mentioned. Okay, great. The small business owner can use generative AI, and they can go in there and they can say, okay, ChatGPT, acting as a blank. But a lot of times those small business owners, they don't know the questions, or they don't know the persona that they need to define in order to get the quality output that you're talking about here. And with what I saw, not only were those personas already built into your software, but they were built in and calibrated based on that high level strategic contribution that you've made to those larger companies, and that you mentioned earlier. And so it's great that the small business owner has this tool, but if they don't know how to use it in the way that TryPebbles.ai is doing it, it's a missed opportunity for that small business owner. So I was particularly impressed that the small business owner doesn't need to learn prompting. They don't need to learn, become a generative AI expert to get the benefit as if they were a generative AI expert. It was very impressive. So one of the things that we like to talk about is certainly the software. We're going to get into that because I'm very excited about that functionality being released to the public. But the process of creation that leveraged generative AI for your operations, for your programming, for your marketing. If you don't mind, maybe share a few examples of how generative AI really came to the rescue in the creation of Pebbles.
There have been AI companies before OpenAI, but it was really the breakthrough that OpenAI had which allowed us to really piggyback basically on their logic. So we understood very early on that the time has come, and that OpenAI, and then soon after, Google, Microsoft, we're all getting to the stage where we're almost like with the internet revolution, we are getting into a similar revolution with basically with OpenAI, with generative AI. But it is still it's still horizontal mass market, product. Their goal is, from what I understood, my conversations, for example, with Sam Altman himself, but also with other leaders in the industry, is that they want to keep the cost down for intelligence or generation as low as possible, and get it as much adopted as possible by the world. Our goal is completely different. So they're building a horizontal AI that will be soon, for example, adopted into our Apple products, and it's
Yeah.
for mass market. Ours is something much harder to solve, which is B2B, go to market, which requires a very deep understanding in corporate strategy,
Yeah.
neuromarketing, persuasion sciences, communication science, digital psychology, statistics, data science. I mean, I can go on. Because B2B is fundamentally, it requires a longer consideration process or a sales cycle, because we're not buying an $800 iPhone here. We start anywhere between $1,000 and 100,000, if not a million. So that requires a certain dance. It requires certain processes and methodologies and a certain etiquette, certain leveraging certain principles, where you can get a person from tell me more to, okay, give me the service
Yeah.
agreement, I'm ready to sign.
Nice. So your involvement in AI certainly predates the release of OpenAI's ChatGPT 3.5 in November of 2022. Do you, and a lot of the listeners here, they don't have a technical background. They weren't involved in, machine learning or data science. And there is some hesitation that is my technical expertise going to be challenged here as I'm using generative AI in my business? As someone who's been on both sides of it, the deep technical side as well as the generative side that you're leveraging in your software, what would you tell the average small to medium business owner if they had that concern?
Okay, there's two schools of thought here. I'll be the Dutch direct myself and the diplomatic self. Okay, the diplomatic one is more what our AI director says, which is, yes, you don't need any technical skill set. We'll make Pebbles AI. In fact, we're in the road of making Pebbles so easy to understand, to use, that your grandmother, with half an hour training, would be able to understand essentially how to use it. I, on the other hand, well, I'm the son of two academics, so I like teaching. And when I was doing my bachelor, and I was always a tutor, I fundamentally believe that people should have some basic understanding of, what is to come. I mean, you can't hide where we are heading. There
Yep.
is a change coming.
Yes.
There is a genuine. It's like hiding from Google search. You couldn't hide from it.
Yeah.
That times 10 is coming right now. You understanding the basic principles. You don't need to be technical, but understanding the logic and the basic principles. Like we learn the basic principles of physics, of chemistry, and mathematics at high school. We ought to understand that also with AI. And in fact, we are building, or we have already built, Pebbles AI in a way where there's a layer, and we don't have to do this, but I wanted this. We put the extra effort there. So if you have the platform, so what you see, there's a whole backend essentially where you hover over question marks, and the question marks everywhere that explains to you the certain sciences and what this button does and why it does it. So I'm trying to also educate my users as
Yeah.
well, of going to market, but also how the system works.
I wish more software would do that. That's actually pretty brilliant. I've got the choice at that point as the user. If I'm interested and curious, the information's there. If I just want to get the result and I'm not interested and curious, I don't have to know that to use the tools.
Exactly.
It's interesting. It's what you referenced about, hiding from Google search. There's a quote from Ayn Rand that I think applies here. And that quote is, you can deny reality, but you cannot deny the consequences of reality. Right? You can say, "Oh, AI, I'm not interested. It's not going to affect my industry. It's going to be years before I need to worry about this." You can believe that. However, simultaneously, the competitor next door that's now simply using ChatGPT or something basic now has an advantage that you cannot match unless you're using that technology. So I like the way that says. So for those of you listening, the takeaway from that explanation is that, do you need it? No. Should you have that understanding to some degree of how the technology is delivering the results? Yes, absolutely. And I'm in agreement. We don't spend a lot of time talking about the technical side of things. However, I'm pretty curious about, like, we routinely talk about the stages of AI with narrow intelligence, general intelligence, super intelligence. We talk about that stuff regularly, even though, do I need to know that in order to create copy with, a generative AI tool? No, I don't. So the size of business, and I know that with your software, you're addressing needs across a broad spectrum of business sizes. You're not necessarily focused on enterprise. You're primarily focused on the ones, like our thesis as well. The small to medium businesses will not have access to the Accenture talent that's billing, $1 billion in the first half of this year. We just won't have it. So it's either up to us as an individual, or it's up to people like you and I to provide the SMBs with their version of that tool. The type of business, the size of business that you think would benefit the most from leveraging something like you've got. Tell me about your ideal customer business for Pebbles.
Sure. It's a good point. I think the ideal customer for us that will benefit the most are, I think you got three groups here. You got startups and scale-ups, employees anywhere between, I think 5 to 50, essentially. That's really, this will make a huge difference for them. Huge. And then we're looking really in the big players. So we're really looking at companies around 500 to 1,000 employees that have so many inefficiencies, and they haven't really centralized all their marketing, sales, product teams into harmonized go-to-market like machine. That will make a huge impact. It will not just save costs. It saves costs while increasing efficacy, which in return increases profitability. And the final thing is channel partners. So we're talking about the global accelerators in the world, like Techstars, Founder Institute, Y Combinator, but also marketing agencies and lead gen agencies. They have the biggest gain on this because they can serve with much more value through their incumbent clients, and also increase their competitive advantage as well at the same time. And we offer them, or essentially a white label with combination of an affiliate program where we share kind of the profits. Like, our goal right now is not to maximize profitability. It's adoption. We want to see it in hands. We want to see it helping people. We want, like Etsy did, right? Like, they had a great case study. They went for, the case studies and for the success stories. That's what we want to see. So in the first year or so, we will be very lenient with that. And and I think also, coming back to your previous point, I do think that society has become slightly, I don't want to call it lazy, but let's just say lazy. Yes, you don't, like, let's do a metaphor. Yes, you don't need to know the intrinsics of how a car works.
Sure.
But you need a driver license. You need to know the basics of how to drive it.
Good point.
Etc. I think that's the same with AI. And I think you need to take it seriously. You need to know how to drive it and how it high level operates. It has wheels. If you pedal, it's gasoline or electrical. You need to understand these things. And I think we became very complacent with these. Just in life, TikTok comes in our life and it's all 30-second videos, and it merges our brain, and our attention spans become shorter. I think we need to wake up, and we need to take control and ownership of our own lives, including our businesses and our communities.
That's a great point. Now, if I'm a business owner and I'm listening to this because I have an interest in doing exactly what you said, there's a lot of resources out there of varying, credibility, let's say. The 30-second TikTok video as compared to an hour conversation with you, somebody who takes a more mature approach, what would be the advice that you would have for the AI curious when it comes to being selective about the information that they choose to immerse in when it comes to this topic?
Let's start with generative AI. I think you need to understand high level how it works and start experimenting. I'll give you a practical
Yeah.
example because I know your audience likes these practical examples. So, what really helps with generative AI is to be very clear, like what is your goal? So my goal is to write a newsletter to X, Y, and Z. Okay, great. And to go a bit more deeper in terms of, okay, so here is the audience. Here are the characteristics of the audience. More is not better. So condense it. Like, okay, my audience lives in New York. They're founders of larger companies, etc., and they typically love these kind of things. And their problems are X, Y, and Z essentially. And then provide them what good looks like, so that the system
Yeah.
understands.
Yeah.
Here's my benchmark essentially. That's one prompt. Stop there, run it, and then take an iterative process to really home in the precision and the accuracy of that newsletter, essentially. How do I know this? Well, it's a combination, right? It's by practicing and doing, I reverse engineered back this logic, but also by reading research articles. You don't have to do that. Just do it easier. Go on X. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Elon, but he has really, he rejuvenatized the life into or former Twitter, and you can see a lot of smart Gen
Yeah.
AI engineers that speak normal language that anyone can understand. It's quite interesting, actually, and you
Great
learn
tip.
more. Yeah, it's bite sizes. I mean, every
Yeah.
day, just read 30 minutes, and you'll be on top of your game, and you'll outcompete anyone.
Yeah. That's a great resource. I agree. Twitter tends to not be as sensational, obviously, as Instagram or TikTok. So the stuff being shown on Twitter, at least the people that I follow that are in the AI space, are much more interested in, rather than the magic tricks, the real use, the applications. Hey guys, look what I just built, as compared to, hey, look, let me show you some razzle dazzle from AI. I think I would agree with that completely. Are there any particular podcasts or news sources that you, because I understand who your ideal customer is, regardless of your position with AI and your depth of understanding, you need to, I'm not going to say dumb it down, but you need to be able to translate your level of understanding into a layman or a new user's experience. Are there any news resources or podcasts that you feel do a good job of what you do, which is translating from the technical and complex into the accessible and usable?
Okay, first off, I mean, for anyone listening, I would say go on your X feed for Twitter or on
Thanks, buddy.
mine. Go into the followers. I just follow all the people that we're following, and
Ah,
I've really taken
I love it.
very careful, a created approach of who I'm following.
Yep.
Honestly, these guys are amazing. So they're engineers from Gemini to OpenAI to other people that I know personally, and they're not only brilliant, but they're also very kind people that are really trying to make a difference in the
Good.
world. And
Yeah.
they're not like they're not money driven. They're really achievement driven, and they want to really push some positivity in this world. So that's number one. Number two is podcasts like yours or Diaries of a CEO, for example, are really helpful. They get
Yes.
very interesting people. Just go into their channel, scroll down. This is also often where I want to listen to other thought leaders in the field as well. It really helps informing high level R review of how to use these machines or these systems, where we are as a society and where we're going. So you can also anticipate basically the heading as well. Um,
Good advice.
Unfortunately, you have to do, in my opinion, you have to do this because with the internet, it was different. The internet can't think by itself. At this point, this is a car that will become a self-driving car, which will eventually become
Yeah.
a self-conscious car.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up. I've been having this conversation with other people in the space. I'm commercially driven. You're commercially driven. We have to be. Like, we've got families to take care of. We've got things that we want to do in the world to support others and that sort of stuff. However, at this stage in generative AI, in small to medium business, enterprise, I can't speak to that, but at least for this, the culture of the leaders in the space, like you, like others that come on the show, isn't an ego-driven effort. It is very much like I heard a quote that I like a lot because it applied to me, and that quote was from John Doerr, and that quote was, "In business, you're either a missionary or a mercenary," right? And for me in business, ethically, but I was driven as the commercial intent of a business was much more interesting to me than the passion behind it. That didn't never happen until I got involved with generative AI, and I saw how simple it is to have a major impact on these businesses that would otherwise be struggling to afford talent, for access to that talent that has the kind of frameworks that Pebbles brings to the table. And so for any of you listening, I think that John just said was, it's important for you to understand. Now is the time to ask questions. There are a lot of people asking questions, and the people that are answering those questions right now in Gen AI tend to be very supportive, and they're not seeing competition necessarily. I can't share that with you. I can't help you because you're going to compete with me. That's not the spirit of things. So right now is probably the best time for you to get involved because of the open nature of the sharing. Look, I don't care if he says go listen to another podcast. I'm curious. I want to learn just like you. So this is a great time for individuals to be listening to these, asking these types of questions, following the people, reach out to the people on Twitter, communicate with them. If you're enjoying this episode and want to learn more about how to start using AI at work, we've made it easy for you. For just $1, you can have full access to the Chief AI Officer community, which will give you additional training, custom software, daily training calls on AI tools, using AI automations, getting more from your ChatGPT sessions, and the business of being an AI consultant. Simply go to chiefaiofficer.com/insiders to accelerate your AI journey. Now, back to the episode. So let's talk about the current endeavor that's taking most of your time. What has, and I know you've been involved in projects in the past, but what has been the biggest difference between leveraging generative AI in the creation of your software as compared to pre-gen AI attempts at creating software?
It's huge. Honestly, in one word, huge. Creating our own models, which allow us to produce agents who are autonomous thinkers, as again, the McKinsey thinker of the senior analyst that can provide you actionable intelligence, the agent that can act like a head of marketing at Google, for example,
Yeah.
or, the sales manager with very high emotional intelligence that has persuasion sciences baked in at, for example, the likes of Microsoft or Cisco. Building that requires a fundamental strong understanding of how to go to market or any vertical, like the workflow works. But you need to understand, like, really deep, and not just theoretically. You should have lived it, and you should know what good looks like. So enterprise, you should know how it is when it's growing, and mid-sized companies, and you should also know that the level of startup scale-ups. Thereafter, you're gonna have to basically be able to find and write literally yourself empirical studies that are scientifically proven with market tested models, or find that kind of the Venn diagram. Like, okay, this is proven, but does that actually translate into business practicality? If yes, great, let's push it in there. So we've done that for everything. So every business case study we have, for example, within the platform, whether or not your goal is upsell or cross-sell or an exploration email, there is a whole specifically suite on sciences connected to that. So when you press on it, the output of that
Nice.
campaign or email or sales asset like a proposal is maximized for persuasion, communication, and also getting the prospective client across the different layers of the funnel, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. And the fact that a solopreneur can have access to this kind of output is, I think, a testament to the capabilities of generative AI. Because, again, folks, you haven't seen the inside of it like I have. There's this saying that's been going around in generative AI for at least a year and a half now, and that is the first $1 billion one-person company is going to be possible because of this generative AI, this acceleration that's occurring. And you say, okay, yeah, whatever, until you see something like what you showed me with Pebbles AI, and you realize, oh, and the reason is because of a word that you used earlier, which is agents. And that is something that if somebody's new to generative AI, or they're using maybe ChatGPT, but they're not holistically understanding its application, something like an agent comes on the scene, and it's like the next level up from generative AI. Do you mind taking a minute to kind of explain what an agent is as you define it, and the impact that an agent brings to the table as compared to just you messing around on ChatGPT?
Yes, in ChatGPT, you take control. So let's go back to the newsletter, shall we? That newsletter, I told you, you push generate, so you're like, you're not fully happy with this. This should change, that should change. It's something very simple. It's written in American English, but us British, we're snobs. We're like, it should be written, British English, for example. Something small like that. You have to go and tell, like, can you write this exact article in British English, please? Right. With agents, that autonomous thinking is baked in. So before it gets to you, it's almost like having your own super smart kind of assistant next to you that is, first off, the IQ is much higher, it's much knowledgeable, and it knows exactly what you want and what your business is. So it already knows, this newsletter is going towards the British market, so that should have been written, American English. Even though you forgot, the agent did it, so he did it for you. And so when you see it, everything's already done and it's already written British English, so you don't have to go, start editing, etc., etc. That's just one agent. But imagine if you have a group of agents, so Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, those McKinsey, head of marketing, head of sales, kind of people around it. And they keep themselves in check and they talk with each other. They share things. So in our platform, our web of agents that look over, for example, actual intelligence, which is basically strategy, has different things fed into them and different frameworks and logic. And the model is built in a different way than, for example, if you want to run a campaign. Because when you do actual intelligence, it's like, okay, should we go into the DACH region, Germany, Austria, Switzerland? Okay. That's a high level question, typically a boardroom question. Like, shall we do this? Some very smart young analysts do some calculations, market intelligence, and gives, I think we should do it. I think Germany is quite interesting. It's growing. Maybe Frankfurt is a great place to penetrate, et cetera, et cetera. Or, for example, New York. It could be anywhere. But, you give a general direction. At the point when you do a market campaign, I don't need that anymore, that strategic level. At this point, we want to be surgical, so precision and accuracy comes into play. So we require different skill sets, different kind of sciences, and different logic at each stage of that workflow, if that makes sense. So imagine if they all do the works amongst them and then come to you. You just save days, if not weeks of work.
And not only that work, but the mental load of you having to come up with the questions that you would be answering the models in order to get the answer. That is taken off your plate. Now all of that neural capacity, that mental bandwidth, is available to address the important and urgent things that are occurring in the business. Or in the Eisenhower matrix, maybe you've got time now to work on those longer term plans while these agents are doing all the stuff and giving you an output that's already been considered, intelligently designed, reflected upon by different perspectives. It's incredible. So, we hear a lot about, I do at least, I hear a lot about agents and people, oh, go check out this site, you can build agents. Go check this site out and you can build agents. I don't know that what those sites are building, though, meets the reality of what you're talking about here. Is that functionality available off the shelf for somebody like me to go and start building agents? Is that capability here yet?
From the Blue Ocean competitive analysis we did, we saw that predominantly agents are built by companies with a specific purpose, and they tend not to white label it. But I do see things springing up, essentially, where you will be able to train your white label, essentially.
Got it.
However, training your agents, I think, is like training your kid, for example, but in one specific topic or a plethora of topics. It really requires a structured, logical approach, because there is, if you put in nonsense, the agent will be trained incorrectly and the output will be incorrect as well. So I don't see it getting very democratized in the near future, frankly, because it's our IP. It's also the IP of some other younger AI companies. But yeah, I think the future will be really like, listen, I need an agent for HR matters, recruitment and policies, internal and everything else. You can go to Pebbles AI, but then the HR version of it to another company, for example, which is built on a different vertical that is trying to make it easier. It will be, for the time being, a close to guarded secret.
So, just when you think you're getting a handle on generative AI in particular, I'm like, okay, good. I'm comfortable using generative AI. Then comes agency, and folks, we're not talking about like an advertising agency, but agents that can make their own decisions based on the data they've been fed, as we talked about here. But that becomes like a whole new way of thinking about generative AI. There's this importance that's put on proper prompting format and calibrating your prompts for consistent output. But if an agent is there, the agent is going to no longer need my contributions, and all of this investment that I've made in the current best practice of using these tools, it's going to be, I don't know about obsolete, but certainly superfluous, because now we're going to have a level of this technology that I can probably at some point go in and say, you're trained on my data. I need a public relations agent, right? And that the agents will actually be building other agents. Is that where we're headed?
Well, I hope not, because if other agents are building agents, then I'm not sure how good the secondary agents are. Look, this is a prediction, of course. I don't, unless you have incorporated all the knowledge, including IP, that is not public knowledge of companies that respective verticals, say HR or whatever, within the agents that are building the agents. I honestly don't think at this point that the quality will be as good as the original ones. However, what I do see coming up is a marketplace for agents. I do see So for agents, I do see that happening. Like if you, for example, I'm just making something up. A crazy idea would be, look, I worked at Google, so I kind of know how they're working. Um, Imagine you got an extension. So you have your browser extension, right? So, the marketplace for browser extensions, you happen to need an HR agent or anything related, or recruitment agent. So you download it and then you can ask it, to write up a certain JD, a job description, or you can ask it to write out an startup HR policy within the US and complying with the US laws, labor laws.
Yeah.
That's possible. I mean, I think that's going to happen, but
Wow.
um, I think it's going to make everyone's life easier at the beginning. And I think the first 2 to 5 years we'll see eventually our lives being, our quality of life will be better. Like we'll have more time to go home and spend time with our loved ones, and our efficacy will be higher. After that, I mean, it's anyone's guess, to be honest. And with all the drama that's going on with OpenAI now and people quitting it from
Yeah.
ethics department, that does not promise any good. So I'm a bit
Yeah.
concerned that capitalism is taking the forefront over AI ethics. It should be balance.
Yeah, that's what happens when you give it to Silicon Valley, I guess. Hi, Silicon Valley. So this is interesting. Okay, if I'm an early adopter and I'm using these tools right now, certainly I have an advantage over the other, I don't know, online marketer or education program or consultancy or whatever. But they're going to eventually, somebody in their company is going to say, "Hey, boss, check this out. This is called ChatGPT." Like it's going to start showing up. Now, that's fine. But if I'm using agents and there is a lag time between my competition adopting the use of agents in their business, the gap that I would forecast would be much greater and achieved much faster. For the companies who are, you talk about this 2 to 5 year timeline. For the companies who are taking a wait and see approach, or it's on their plans, but for next year or whatever, will they be able to catch up with early adopters?
No. Sorry.
Okay.
I had to be Dutch direct here. No, because the longer answer is, people need to get used to new technology. It's,
Yeah.
if you look at historically in any technology, there is a life, like a cycle of understanding, adoption, a cultural acceptance of a new technology. So if you wait a year from now from doing introductions, I mean, there are already which company was it already? Like one of the top tier strategy consultancies is already starting to include AI training with their new graduates already. I mean, even if you're not adopting it immediately across the board, you need to get people used to this product. It's very funny, actually. My dad just messaged me just before this podcast. Like this ChatGPT 4.0. I mean, that's quite interesting. So what can you do? Quite funny. And my dad, it shows even my dad is who is historically quite conservative in these things. He's one of those people that was against Apple until I had to force it down his throat, and then now he has everything. He has an iPad, iWatch, and a MacBook. He has the whole shebang, even the stupid mouse. He has it.
Yeah.
So, but he's already getting interested in ChatGPT. So anyone that's listening, my dad has already showed interest. He's 67. Just saying.
It's time for people to adopt this. So, I'm very, there's a quote that we use a lot in our educational material, and it's a quote from Peter Diamandis, and he was on a podcast called Impact Theory, and this was from about June of last year. And June of last year, at the time, I thought, boy, I'm really behind on this AI stuff, right? Now, that was a year ago, but in that interview, there's a quote, and he says, this is coming from the Singularity University with all the research they do and all the predictions and the successful track record they've got of predicting impacts. And his direct quote was, by the end of this century, there will be two types of companies, those that are AI enabled and those that are extinct. That's it. That was a direct quote from Peter. And, you know, when I bring that up in conversations, if I'm training and stuff, people go, wow. And I say, well, here's what's even scarier. That was from a year ago. What have you done in the past year since Peter said that? What have you personally, your company, to train your people to make sure that you are on the winning side of enablement? You're not one of those. It's like, you know, where'd all our business go? It's all gone. So let's talk about Pebbles, because I think that from what I saw, this would be a tool that would be a force multiplier for that business who, even if you are still on the sidelines, if you had a tool like this, your catch-up pace to any of your competitors would be compressed significantly. Now, if you go and learn the tool, let's say your competitors are already using the large language models, and maybe they've got some Gen AI subscription tools and that sort of thing. That's great. They're beating you. They're getting more done with less effort. However, if you were to show up and skip all of that and show up with a tool like Pebbles that had the agents, essentially agents built in, that had the pre-calibrated thought environment for those specific niches within the business that were based on not, hey, what is my competition doing, but what is the McKinsey guy bringing to my business? Do you see that this would be a chance for an individual who is ready to get off the fence to kind of bypass all of that learning curve that your competition has had to go through over the past year?
Yes. So
Nice.
we would be the third.
Good.
Very simple. Yes, we are the third category, which are essentially a bunch of people from industry leaders and very, very skilled and talented developers that are building tools that want to make sure that, you know, economy thrives. And the reason for that is because, I mean, in a healthy capitalism, you need competition.
Yeah.
And where we're heading right now, this is always like, if you look at the data, is that, you know, the bigger companies are quickly buying up basically smart, startups and scale-ups and merging them together. And that's it. They died out. You bought M&A, mergers and acquisitions. Done. It's two things at the same time. You kill your competition and you grow, and you basically implement their IP within your existing stack. It's like three birds, one stone. And I honestly think that there needs to be a couple of us that don't want to be that billion-dollar solopreneur. I mean, I appreciate you maybe insinuating that I might be that person. I am really not driven by money. I really am not, and I really I find it. I have this very strong sense of injustice where startups and scale-ups and mid-sized companies can't flourish to a certain level where all consumers, society itself, can benefit from it. If we give too much, we all know how we are. Like, as a humankind, we get too much power. You know, ultimate power corrupts ultimately. So,
Yep. Lord Acton.
I mean, where we're heading is not the right direction. And I think having not just Pebbles AI, but there's also another company that I really admire, I won't say the name, that does basically HR workflow automation and all the smart things that you require in mid-sized companies. I mean, from little I know about them, from what I can sense and read, is they're really doing this to help companies and people and employees and founders. We need more of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look, if it happens that, yes, our company becomes a billion-dollar company in the midst of it, yeah, great, perfect. Are we still performing? Are we still helping people? Are we still are we still a net positive plus for society across the globe? If yes, I'm happy. I'll sleep peacefully.
That's a wonderful perspective for anybody who's wanting to use these tools. Look, the first thing, I get it. You're like, oh my gosh, I can make more money with these tools. I can get more output out of my employees. I can work less, whatever those things are. But now once you've achieved that I don't know, that victory in your business, this approach of now, how can I provide a better output for my customers? How can I give my customers 10 times the value that they were getting from us before? I think that right there that's the people that I'm encountering. I'm not operating at the environment where there's M&A occurring and things like that. I'm working with the practitioners, right? Like at least in my business. And here's what I can tell you that I'm doing is I am encouraging them to recognize the impact, but not necessarily the financials or the economics of the use of this, but the impact of the use of this. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to create a culture of individuals who the assumption is the money's coming, right? If I know these things, I'm in demand. I have an advantage in the marketplace. However, I shouldn't solely be focused on how can I use these tools to make money. I should be focused on how can I, exactly like you're saying, like the pioneers of this space are doing, how can I impact the other shop owner like me who wishes he could be at his kid's game or would like to be home and not have to work on, a holiday or whatever like that. If you approach it from that perspective, yes, the money's coming, right? It's inevitable because of the value that's being created by tools like Pebbles and by training like what we do. The value is obvious. And when you provide that value, people will pay you for that value. But if you're looking at this strictly through going back to that quote from John Doerr, missionary or mercenary, you can be both, folks. But I think that the sentiment that we're sharing here is that be the missionary who makes money. Don't be the mercenary who ends up finding a heart later in life kind of thing with this stuff. So wonderful perspective. So I would like for people to be able to follow the progress of what you guys are doing at Pebbles. What's the best way for them to do that? And what do they need to know if they are going to, follow the progress and get in the wait list?
Well, they can always connect with me over LinkedIn. I accept almost everyone. So I post quite few. Well, every 2 weeks, I do at least one post with some updates on where we are. You can also go to www.trypebbles.ai. You'll see the website and then just click join waiting list and just put your name and email and be there. We have a very special promo going on for the first 1,000 users that we call our early adopters. We will treat them like our VIPs because not only will they get massive amount of discounts and also additional perks, and they will be the first ones getting the new features, but they also will be collected at a platform such as WhatsApp in order for them to provide feedback to us as well.
Nice.
To say, hey, John, this would be great if we had this feature, or hey, maybe can we do this? And we will collate that information, that feedback, and build the product additionally around their needs.
Well, man, when you're ready to start showcasing this, I would love for the Chief AI Officer community to be on your circuit, because what you showed me was leveraging generative AI to a level that I hadn't come to that conclusion myself, right? But it was instantly apparent that if this thing works, it's a game changer, that I now have like the requirement for me to go and study how to build a prompt to train it how to be that McKinsey strategist out the window. I don't have to do that. It's ready for me to, that agent is ready for me to start communicating with it right away. I would love for our community and our listeners here on the podcast, of course, as well, to be considered for that early adopter environment. So please, it's an open invitation. When you're ready to start showcasing it, I would love to assist in getting that message out there, because it's fantastic what you guys are doing.
To build on your point, this thing, obviously, we have, at least I had 6 engineer meetings today. We test it every day. In fact, we're it works so well. What we're doing right now is stress testing it, which is
Yeah.
completely, so it works so well that we're at
You're
the
trying to break it.
stages. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that just to make sure, not everyone has a perfect business plan and not everyone
Yeah.
has all the information. So we just want to make sure it is still, at least it has a multiplier value effect for everyone. So we're trying to break it. Exactly. But yeah, honestly, it works so well that we're, I don't want to say scared, but there's a lot of sciences in there that also can be used for propaganda. So, and we don't want to become the next Cambridge Analytica scandal.
Yeah.
So, what we're doing is we are blocking it in Iran, North Korea, obviously Russia, because the American elections are coming up
Yes.
soon. The British
Interesting.
elections as well. So thank God the Dutch elections are already over.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't want our platform to be abused by actual real foreign agents. So
Yeah.
and be used in certain scam farms, because if you use certain tools and your eyes are trained. I had a life before corporate,
Yeah.
which I am not really at the liberty to talk about. You can see the Russian propaganda is already ticking up on X. It's going up, and it's very subtle, but you can still see it. Like if your eyes are trained for it. I don't want them to use this, so we'll block that everywhere. It's going to be only used within countries that we know will not abuse it.
Yeah. So folks, that's a whole nother consideration. These tools, you were talking about, let's make an email campaign. Well, these things are powerful enough to actually persuade mass populations. So it's a consideration that is beyond the use of how we're using it, obviously. Well, this is fantastic. John, thank you so much for joining the show. I know how busy you must be with 6 engineering meetings just today, with you guys being so close to launching it. But I am serious. When you get close, please put us towards the top of the list, if not the top of the list of audiences and communities that this is the type of stuff this is the future. And I would love for our people to have the opportunity to see it as we take the wrapping off the package, right? So keep that in mind. I guess, as we close, is there any final, obviously your LinkedIn profile and the site, the website, we're going to be adding those to the show notes, but is there any final messages that you want to leave people with?
Be vigilant and educate yourself. I think that's the only way we can make sure that the AI revolution goes in a path where it increases our quality of life as opposed to endangering our way of life.
Fantastic. Love it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And John, thank you for sharing all of this. I really enjoyed the conversation. I never know where these are going to go, but based on our initial conversation, I had high expectations that this would be exactly what we did. And that was a fantastic conversation. So
thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much, everybody. We'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to Using AI at Work. Don't forget to subscribe for more conversations about how to use AI at work. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Chief AI Officer, for empowering businesses with AI education and training. Visit their website for a free AI readiness assessment and AI strategy guide to help you get started using AI at work. That's www.chiefaiofficer.com. Special thanks to our producer, Evan DeSaulnier, for making this episode possible. Follow us on Twitter at the handle Using AI at Work, and visit www.usingaiatwork.com for free resources to help you harness AI in your role.